So I was in the middle of reading a few hours earlier. That was 2 hours ago. 2, 3 hours ago. That was 3:18 a.m. Me to finish the reading. I was in the middle of reading. Then my phone died. But that won't stop us from finishing the book. But oh my gosh, this book, I love it. I love it. Um. Okay. Forgot where I was at. All right. Obviously, I'm gonna go back and repeat some of the words that I said in the last part because my phone died. But no excuses, no excuses. I'm going to read it again. But that's on me. Even though the phone was on 80%, I don't know how you burn out after 2 hours, but that's on me. Take full accountability. That's on me. No excuses. He took 2 steps forward, bringing up the gun, lifting his head, working his jaws. It issued a raspy, cracked, slurred, but still intelligible word that he could hear even above the sounds of the storm. Hurt. Travis was more horrified than amazed. The creature had not been designed to be capable of speech, yet it had intelligence to learn language and to desire communication. Evidently, during the months it pursued Einstein, that desire had grown great enough to allow it to conquer, to some extent, its physical limitations. It had practiced speech, finding ways to wring a few tortured words from its fibrous voice box and malformed mouth. Travis was horrified not at the sight of a demon speaking, but at the thought of how desperately the thing must have wanted to communicate with someone, anyone. He did not want to pity it, and not dare pity it, because he wanted to feel good about blowing it off the face of the earth. Come far, now done, it said with tremendous effort, as if each word had to be torn from his throat. Also, this is where I had left 472. I left off. Its eyes were too alien ever to inspire empathy, and every limb was unmistakably an instrument of murder. Unwrapping one long arm from around its body, it picked up something that had been on the floor beside it, but that Travis had not noticed until now. One of Mickey Mouse tapes Einstein had gotten for Christmas. The famous mouse was pictured on the cassette holder, wearing the same outfit he always wore, smiling that familiar smile, waving. Mickey, the outsider said, and as wretched and strange and barely intelligible as its voice was, It somehow conveyed a sense of terrible loss and loneliness. Mickey. Then it dropped the cassette and clutched itself and rocked back and forth in agony. Travis took another step forward. The outsider's hideous face was so repulsive that there was almost something exquisite about it. In its unique ugliness, it was darkly, strangely seductive. This time, when the thunder crashed, the barn lights flickered and nearly went out. Raising its head again, speaking in that same scratchy voice but with cold, insane glee, it said, "Kill dog, kill dog, kill dog." And it made a sound that might have been laughter. He almost shot it to pieces, but before he could pull the trigger, the outsider's laughter gave way to what seemed to be sobbing. Travis watched, mesmerized. Fixing Travis with its lantern eyes, it again said, "Kill dog, kill dog, kill dog." But this time, it seemed racked with grief, as if it grasped the magnitude of the crime that it had been genetically compelled to commit. It looked at the cartoon of Mickey Mouse on the cassette holder, finally pleading. It said, "Kill me." Travis did not know if he was acting more out of rage or out of pity when he squeezed the trigger and emptied the Uzi's magazine into the outsider. What man had begun, man now ended. When he was done, he felt drained. He dropped the carbine and walked outside. He could not find the strength to return to the house. He sat down on the lawn, huddled in the rain, and wept. He was still weeping when Jim Keene drove up the muddy lane from the coast highway. Oh, that's so sad. 11. On Thursday afternoon, January 13, Lem Johnson left Cliff Soames and three other men at the foot of the dirt lane where it met the Pacific Coast Highway. Their instructions were to allow no one past them but to remain on station until and if Lem called for them. Cliff Soames seemed to think this was a strange way to handle things, but he did not voice his objections. Lem explained that since Travis Cornell was an ex-Delta man with considerable combat skills, he ought to be handled with care. If we go storming in there, he'll know who we who we are as soon as he sees us coming, and he might react violently. If I go in alone, I'll be able to get him to talk to me. And maybe if I can persuade him to just give it up, and maybe I can persuade him to just give it up. That was a flimsy explanation for his unorthodox procedure, and it did not wipe the frown off Cliff's face. Lamb didn't care about Cliff's frown. He went in alone, driving one of the sedans, and parked in front of the bleached wood house. Birds were singing in the trees. Winter had temporarily relaxed its hold on the northern California coast, and the day was warm. Lamb climbed the steps and knocked on the front door. Travis Cornell answered the knock and stared at him through the screen door before saying, "Mr. Johnson, I suppose. How did you—" "Oh, yes, of course. Garrison Dilworth would have told you about me that night he got his call through." To Lamb's surprise, Cornell opened the screen door. "You might as well come in." Cornell was wearing a sleeveless t-shirt, apparently because of a sizable bandage encasing most of his right shoulder. He led Lem through the front room and into a kitchen where his wife sat at the table peeling apples for a pie. "Mr. Johnson," she said. Lem smiled and said, "I'm widely known, I see." Cornell sat at the table and lifted a cup of coffee. He offered no coffee to Lem. Standing awkwardly for a moment, Lem eventually sat with him. He said, "Well, it was inevitable, you know. We had to catch up with you sooner or later." She peeled apples and said nothing. Her husband stared into his coffee. "What's wrong with them?" Lem wondered. This was not remotely like any scenario he had imagined. He was prepared for panic, anger, despondency, and many other things, but not for this strange apathy. They did not seem to care that he had. They did not seem to care that he had at last tracked them down. He said, "Aren't you interested in how we located you?" The woman shook her head. Cornell said, "If you really want to tell us, go ahead and have your fun." Frowning, puzzled, Lem said, "Well, it was simple. We knew that Mr. Dilworth had to have to have called you from some house or business within a few blocks of that park north of the harbor. So we tied our own computers into the telephone company's records with their permission, of course, and put men to work examining all the long distance calls charged to all the numbers within 3 blocks of that park. On that one night, nothing led us to you. But then we realized that when charges are reversed, the call isn't billed to the number from which the call is placed. It appears in the records of the person who accepts the reverse charges, which was you, but it also appears in a special phone company file. So they'll be able to document the call if the person who accepted the charges later refuses to pay. We went through that special file, which is very small, and quickly found a call placed from a house along the coast just north of the beach park to your number here. When we went around to talk to the people there, the SMB family, we focused on their son, a teenager named Tommy. And although it took some time, is Einstein dead? Oh, why did I start to feel bad for the outsider? Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So I'm guessing the outsider was like programmed by, it's not Weatherby, that by, start with the Yarbo, to kill Einstein. It was just programmed. That's why I feel so bad. Like once it killed Einstein, its mission was done. It had no purpose. Freak. And although it took some time, we are certain that it had indeed been Dilworth who used their phone. The first part was terribly time consuming, weeks and weeks, but after that, child's play. "Do you want a medal or what?" Cornell asked. The woman picked up another apple, quartered it, and began to strip off the peel. They were not making this easy for him, but then his intentions were much different from what they would be expecting. They could not be criticized for being cool toward him when they did not yet know that he had come as a friend. He said, "Listen, I left my man at the end of the lane, told him you might panic, do something stupid if you saw us coming in a group. But why I really came alone was to make you an offer." They both they both met his eyes at last with interest. He said, "I'm getting out of this goddamn job by spring. Why I'm getting out? You don't have to know or care. Just say that I've gone through a sea change, learned to deal with failure, and now it doesn't scare me anymore." He sighed and shrugged. "Anyway, the dog doesn't belong in a cage. I don't give a damn what they say, what they want. I know what's right. I know what it's like being in a cage. I've been in one most of my life until recently. The dog shouldn't have to go back to that. What I'm going to suggest is that you get him out of here now, Mr. Cornell. Take him off through the woods. Let him somewhere that he'll be safe, then come back and face the music. Say that the dog ran off a couple of months ago in some other place, and you think he must be dead by now, or in the hands of people who are taking good care of him. There'll there'll still be the problem of the outsider, which you must you must know about. But you and I can work up a way to deal with that when it comes. I'll put men on surveillance of you, but after a few weeks, say, I'll pull them. Say it's a lost cause." Cornell stood up and stepped to Lem's chair. With his left hand, he grabbed hold of Lem's shirt and hauled him to his feet. "You're 16 days too late, you son of a bitch." "What do you mean? The dog is dead. The outsider killed him, and I killed the outsider." The woman laid down her paring knife and a piece of apple. She put her face in her hands and sat forward in her chair, shoulders hunched, making soft, sad sounds. Ah, Jesus, Lem said. Cornell let go of him, embarrassed, depressed. Lem strained his tie, smoothed the wrinkles out of his shirt. He looked down at his pants, brushed them off. Ah, Jesus, he repeated. Cornell was willing to lead them to the place in the forest where he had buried the outsider. Lem's men dug it up. The monstrosity was wrapped in plastic, but they didn't have to unwrap it to know that it was Yarbek's creation. Yarbek, yup. The weather had been cool since the thing had been killed, but it was getting rank. Cornell would not tell them where the dog was buried. He never had much of a chance to live in peace, Cornell said sullenly. But by God, he's going to rest in peace now. No one's going to put him on an autop, autopsy table and hack him up. No way. In a case where the national security is at stake, you can be forced. Let them, Cornell said. If they haul me up before a judge and try to make me tell them where I buried Einstein, I'll spill the whole story to the press. But if they leave Einstein alone, if they leave me and mine alone, I'll keep my mouth shut. I don't intend to go back to Santa Barbara to pick up as Travis Cornell. I'm high now, and that's what I'm going to stay. My old my old life's gone forever. There's no reason to go back, and if the government's smart, it will let me be high and stay out of my way. Clem stared at him a long time. Then, yeah, if they're smart, I think they'll do just that. Later that same day, as Jim Keene was cooking dinner, his phone rang. It was Garrison Dilworth, whom he had never met but had gotten to know during the past week by acting as liaison between the attorney and Travis and Nora. Garrison was calling from a payphone in Santa Barbara. Did they show up yet? The attorney asked. Early this afternoon, Jim said. That Tommy SMB must be a good kid. Not bad really, but he didn't come to see me and warn me out of the goodness of his heart. He's in rebellion against authority. When they pressured him into admitting that I made the call from his house that night, he resented them as as inevitably as billy goats rammed their heads into board fences. Tommy came straight to me. They took away the outsider. What about the dog? Travis said he wouldn't show them where the grave was. Made them believe that he'd Travis said he wouldn't show them where the grave was. Made them believe that he'd kick a lot of ass and pull down the whole temple on everyone's heads if they pushed him. How's Nora? Dilworth asked. She won't lose the baby. Thank God. That must be a great comfort. 2. 8 months later, on the big Labor Day weekend in September, the Johnson and Gaines families got together for a barbecue at the sheriff's house. They played Lem Johnson. They played bridge most of the afternoon. Lem and Karen won more often than they lost, which was unusual these days because Lem no longer approached the game with the fanatical need to win that had once been his style. He had left the NSA in June. Since then, he had been living on the income from the money he had long ago inherited from his father. By next spring, he expected to settle on a new line of work, a small business of some kind, in which he would be his own boss, able to set his own hours. Late in the afternoon, while their wives made salads in the kitchen, Lem and Walt stood out on the patio, tending to the steaks on the barbecue. So you're still known at the agency as the man who screwed up the Banodan crisis. That's how I'll be known until in immemorial, Still get a pension though, Walt said. Well, I did put in 23 years. Doesn't seem right though, that a man could screw up the biggest case of the century and still walk away at 46 with a full pension, three-quarter pension. Walt breathed deeply of the Walt breathed deeply of the fragrant smoke rising off the charring steaks. Still, what is our country coming to? In less liberal times, screw-ups like you would have flogged and put in the stocks at least. He took another deep whiff of the steaks and said, "Tell me again about that moment in their kitchen." Lem had told it 100 times, but Walt never got tired of hearing it again. While the place, the place was neat as a pin. Everything gleamed, and both Cornell and his wife are neat about themselves too. They're well groomed, well scrubbed people. So they tell me the dog's been dead 2 weeks, dead and buried. Cornell throws this angry fit, hauls me out of my chair by my shirt, and glares at me like maybe he's going to rip my head off. When he lets go of me, I straighten my tie, smooth my shirt, and I look down at my pants, sort of out of habit, and I notice these golden hairs, dog hairs, retriever hairs, sure as hell. Now, it could have it could have been that these neat people, especially trying to fill their empty days and take their minds off their tragedy, didn't find the time to clean the house in more than 2 weeks. More than 2 weeks? Hairs were just all over your pants, Walt said. 100 hairs. Like the dog had just been sitting there minutes before you came in. Oh, Einstein's not dead? Like, if I had been 2 minutes sooner, I'd have sat down on the dog himself. Walt turned the steaks on the barbecue. You're a pretty observant man, Lamb, which ought to have taken you far in the line of work you were in. I just don't understand how, with all your talents, you managed to screw up the Benadine case so thoroughly. They both laughed, as they always did. Just luck, I guess, Lem said, which was what he always said, and he laughed again. 3. When James Garrison Hyatt celebrated his third birthday on June 28th, his mother was pregnant with his first sibling, who eventually became his sister. They threw a party at the bleached wood house on the for, forested forested slopes above the Pacific, because the Hyatts would soon be moving to a new and larger house a bit further up the coast. They made it a party to remember, not merely a birthday bash, but a goodbye to the house that had first sheltered them as a family. Jim Keen drove in from Carmel with Puka and Sadie, his two black labs, and his young golden retriever, Leonardo, who was usually called Leo. Few close friends came in from the real estate office where Sam, Travis to everyone, worked in Carmel Highlands, and from the gallery in Carmel where Nora's paintings were exhibited and sold. These friends brought their retrievers too, all of them second litter offspring, all of them second litter offspring of Einstein and his mate, Minnie. Only Garrison was missing. He had died in his sleep the previous year. Oh, R.I.P. Garrison, man. What a hero. They had a fine day, a grand time, not merely because they were friends, and happy to be with one another, but because they shared a secret wonder and joy that would forever bind them into one enormous extended family, all members of the first litter, which Travis and Nora could have not born, which Travis and Nora could not have born without adopting out, could not have born adopting out, in which lived at the bleached woodhouse were also present. Mickey, Donald, Daisy, Huey, Louie. It's all the Mickey Mouse characters, huh? The dogs had an even better time than the people, frolicking on the lawn, playing hide and seek in the woods, and watching videotapes on the TV in the living room. The canine patriarch participated in some of the games, but he spent much of his time with Travis and Nora, and as usual, stayed close to Minnie. He limped as he would for the rest of his life because his right hind leg had been cruelly mangled by the outsider and would not have been usable at all if his vet had not been so dedicated to the restoration of the limb's function. Travis often wondered whether the outsider had thrown Einstein against the nursery wall with great force and then had assumed he was dead, or at the moment when he held the retriever's life in his hands, perhaps the thing had reached down within itself and found some drop of mercy that its makers had not designed into it, but which had somehow been there anyway. Perhaps perhaps it remembered the one pleasure it and the dog had shared in life, the cartoons. And in remembering the sharing, perhaps it saw itself for the first time as having a dim potential to be like other living things. Seeing itself as like others, perhaps it then could not kill Einstein as easily as it had expected. After all, with the flick of those talents, it could have gutted him. But but though he had acquired a limp, Einstein had lost a tattoo in his ear thanks Jim to Jim Keen. Hey, Einstein is still alive. No one could ever prove that he was the dog from Benodine, and he could still play dumb dog very well when he wished. At times during young Jimmy's third birthday extravaganza, Minnie regarded her mate and offspring with charm befuddlement, perplexed by their attitudes and antics. Although she could never fully understand them, no mother of dogs ever received half the love that she was given by those she brought into the world. She watched over them, and they watched over her, guardians of each other. At the dark end of that good day, when the guests were gone, when Jimmy was asleep in his room, when Minnie and her first litter was settling down for the night, Einstein and Travis and Nora gathered at the pantry off the kitchen. The Scrabble tile dispenser was gone. In its place, an IBM computer stood on the floor. Einstein took a stylus in his mouth and tapped the keyboard. The message appeared on the screen. They grow up fast. Yes, they do, Nora said. Yours faster than ours. One day, they'll be everywhere. One day, given time and a lot of litters, Travis said, they'll be all over the world. So far from me, it's a sadness. Yes, it is, Nora said. But all young birds fly from the nest sooner or later. And when I'm gone, what do you mean? Travis asked, stooping and ruffling the dog's thick coat. Will they remember me? Oh, yes, for a face, Nora said, kneeling and hugging him. As long as there are dogs and as long as there are people fit to walk with them, they will all remember you. book. You know what? Wow. The book started so bad too. It was a slow start, but as I gradually kept reading, book book was a 10 out of 10. Magnificent, fantastic. Oh my gosh. Wow. That was an emotional ending. Wow, that book, wonderful book. Wow. Wow. After 9 weeks, I'm done reading. I'm done reading. I'm done with the book. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna be reading the rest of my life. That book was 10 out of 10. Huh. Oh, it's over. All right, lock in, be a man. All right, obviously, great ending, wonderful book, great. It finished very, very well. The last stages of the book, like halfway through the book, that's when the book starts getting more exciting and more interesting to read. But at the beginning, it's a little bit iffy. That's because you're getting the context of every character. But as you learn and get to know the characters, that's when the book starts to get interesting. But 10 out of 10. After 2 months, I'm finally done. All right. So I'm going to give you a quick recap of the whole book. I'm just going to yap about what I personally remember, because it's been 2 months and I'm obviously not gonna give you every detail, but I'm just gonna give you like the overview of the book. Okay. Obviously, the book starts with Travis, who's a very lonely man, depressed. He's at the lowest point of his life, thinking of hanging himself. So he goes on a trip, I believe is in the canyons. It's not even the canyon, it's like in like country or like the forest, something like that. That's where he finds a dog. In which Travis think it's an ordinary dog, but it's really not. He finds a dog. The dog is scrubby, a little bit dirty. He starts to pet it. At first, he's like, "What a wonderful dog." But then, as Travis is about to enter this cave, it's like a type of den or cave in a forest. The dog starts growling. It starts barking furiously, blocking Travis from entering the cave, right? So then Travis is like, "What's wrong with this dog?" So as Travis is trying to go around the dog is blocking him from entering the cave. Travis is like, "What a stubborn dog." It's growling hard because it's weird because the dog went from cute to demon like all of a sudden. But it's for a good reason though. It's for a good reason though. So Travis like, "What's wrong?" Whole time, the dog is protecting Travis from an unknown beast. So it's growling. Because if Travis would have entered the cave, then he would have been killed by that unknown beast that was trying to chase after that dog. So obviously, as the unknown beast was trying to chase the dog, um, Einstein, I mean, Travis ran away with the dog because he wanted to protect it. Or, yeah. But as they got away from the unknown beast, Travis had wanted to go back to check out the cave, but every time he tried to do that, the dog would start growling. So they left it at that. Travis took the dog home because he thought it was a, I don't know, shelter dog, street dog, and was thinking of giving it away. But then in the process of doing that, the dog started showing unordinary dog behavior, intelligent stuff, like opening a glove compartment and opening the car door, etc. Travis thought that was interesting. But yeah, I forgot to include that. Travis was thinking of killing himself, but when the dog kind of stopped him from that because he was kind of a hero, to be honest. No. As Travis was about to give away the dog started showing him some tricks of unordinary dog behavior, and Travis decided to keep the dog for the fun of it because it's a cool dog, it's a smart dog. So Travis kept it, for the fun of it. At first, the dog was stubborn, so later on, he gave it a name, Einstein, because the dog is very, very smart. So that's where Travis gave the dog the name Einstein because it's intelligent and it's not like any other dogs. It's not like it's not like any other dogs he ever seen or taken care of. As we gradually read the book, we learned about Travis' backstory, how he was in the Delta Force, how every person that he was close to died, all his family is dead, all his close friends are dead. That's why he was depressed and lonely and had the mindset that anyone who got close to him dies. So that's where he started to isolate himself. That's why he's an isolated man. See, when I said I wasn't going to give the details, that's when I'm giving the details. I'm giving like all the specific details. But anyway, I'm going to continue yapping. Yeah, as we started to get the backstory of Travis, that's when we get to Nora. Nora is also that's when we started. That's when we learned a little bit about Nora, who is also a significant character in the book, who at first is a beautiful young woman who all her life had been mentally abused by her late aunt who had just died. And with her aunt dying, she was left alone and mentally, psychologically hurt. Her, to elaborate, her point of view and her perspective of herself, like the way she saw herself, was all negative. As we read the book, we got to know that Nora was not at all confident about herself, obviously because of her aunt, and her parents gave her away because they didn't want her. They gave it away to her aunt. As we kept reading the book, we got to know that Nora was self-conscious of herself. She didn't regard herself uh, in any positive light. She was very negative about herself, and she was getting bothered by this guy, Arthur Streck, who was a pervert. At first, he was a repairman trying to fix her TV, but he was being weird toward Nora and trying to, get with her. But he was weird and creepy, over complimenting her. But even though, Nora's bad. She's fine, pretty, complimenting her, telling her she's pretty, trying to just being weird, like overly, just being, I don't know, having no filter, overly weird, overly in her face, you know, overly dominating, which Nora was not used to, you know. And with all her life, her being mentally abused by her aunt, obviously she couldn't stand up for herself. And later on, she kept on getting stalked by Arthur Streck, who was the dude that was being a pervert to Nora. And when the story gets interesting is when at the park, Arthur follows Nora because obviously Nora wanted to change her life. She wanted to explore the outside because all her life she was kept inside because she was her late aunt had filled her mind with negative thoughts about the outside world, about men, about just all bullcrap. Obviously, Nora wanted to explore the outside, wanted to see the world for herself because she had not experienced anything. She was not used to going out to eat. She was not used to going to the park. And with her late aunt being gone, she was discovering this new light, this new side of the world, that she had never seen before. So obviously, just being in the park too was a win. This is where she crossed paths with Travis and Einstein, because she was getting I wouldn't say assaulted, I guess assaulted by Arthur. This is where Einstein came to the rescue, barking furiously at the dude, scaring him away, because Arthur was a actually pretty scary guy, and Einstein had came saved the day. And at the first meet, Einstein and Nora just got close with each other. That's where uh, Nora and Travis met, and after that, it just took off. Obviously, it started pretty slow. The first meet was at the park. The second meet, Einstein had, because the dog is intelligent, Einstein had convinced Travis to go visit Nora again, which Travis was really not trying to do anything, because obviously he didn't want to get with anybody, because mindset filled with negative thoughts that anyone he got close to died. So he didn't want to get into it with anybody. Obviously, when they met at the park, it seemed like Nora was not interested in him, because obviously she was to herself. She was not used to talking to any man. So obviously, yeah, I thought that Nora didn't really like her like that. Didn't really like him like that. So he pretty much just like left it like that. But Einstein convinced him to go to her spot. That's when he went to Nora's spot, he noticed something weird was going on. Oh my gosh, I'm really giving every detail. I'm really going into details. That's where he saw that Nora something was wrong. No, there was noises in the spot. That's where Travis, boom, smashed through the door and went and stopped Arthur Streck, beating him up, and also just saving the day. Anyway, I'm going to details. But yeah, the story kicked off from there, and obviously we get introduced to this character named Vince Nasco, who was a very cool, who's a very nasty character, who's like a hitman, who also plays an important part in the story. His job is just to kill. So his main role was just playing hitman. He was getting sent by high people to go kill the doctors, who we eventually learn about, who are the doctors employed by the government on experimenting on dogs, which, and one of the dogs was Einstein, and the failed beast named the outsider, who were different from each other, which Einstein is like an angel, and the outsider is like it's like the opposite of that. He's like a demon who was programmed as like a army type of secret weapon. to protect and fight for the country. So it was programmed for nothing but combat. So obviously both the dogs had ran away. So the hitman, which is Vince Nasco, was sent on like missions to kill each and every one of the doctors because the experiment was a fail, and the dogs disappeared. So the hitman Vince Nasco was sent to kill all the doctors to get rid of the evidence and everything. Also, Garrison. There's also yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I have to go into details. Obviously, this would take an hour. I'm already at 50 minutes. Jesus is Lord. But a quick overview of the book to keep it short and sweet. The book is about an intelligent dog who meets this two individuals who are lost in life, I guess, and don't have a purpose, and he helps them meet and give them a purpose. And the dog is like an experimental dog that ran away from a lab facility. We get to learn that the dog was made in a lab and it's super intelligent. And we get to learn that in the lab they had made a combat dog and a everyday dog, but the two dogs hate each other. So as the story goes on, as both the dogs ran away, the combat dog, which doesn't like the friendly dog for some reason, chases his one and only plan is to chase, get the friendly dog, and kill him. That's his only objective. So as the story goes on, it's a chase. That's where the friendly dog meets these two individuals, saves their lives, and also help them meet each other. You know, helps Nora and Travis meet each other and gives them purpose and changes their lives, give them meaning. You know, he brings people together. He's like a angel type stuff. But yeah, helps them meet, fall in love with each other. You know, gives them purpose, gives both of them purpose, and both the couple goes on. And after making them meet, the three of them goes on this chase on protecting each other from the outsider and the government, which is after the friendly dog, and also the outsider, which is going around killing people just to get to the friendly dog. Yeah, so it's like a chase type of book, but as you read it, it gets more and more interesting to read as you read it. But wonderful book, 10 out of 10. This, I don't know which one is better. Between Watcher and the last book that I read, the first book that I read. I don't know. Both of them started pretty slow, but and both of them ended emotionally. But I don't know. I don't know. But which one is more exciting? Joyland or Watcher? Joyland or Watcher? Oh, I don't know. Both of the books are awesome. I don't know what rating I gave Joyland, but I'll have to give Watcher point 0.5 higher than Joyland because Watcher is a wonderful book. Although it starts slow, it ends very, very good. If you haven't read it, you need to read it. Wonderful book. Enough of my yapping. I don't know when I'll be back, but I have another book lined up that I'll start reading pretty soon. But yeah, after 9 weeks, I'm done with Watcher. Wonderful book. Wonderful book. It's like close to 4 a.m. right now, and yeah, I'm done. Bye.